Y continuamos reaccionando a más entrevistillas de live action de One Piece, a mucha gente que trabajó ahí, en este caso la editora de live action de One Piece, Tessa nos va a platicar un poquito cómo fue trasladar el tono, el humor, ¿no? El pensamiento de Ichiro Oda a esta versión de live action. Esperemos que tenga muchas cosas interesantes como en la última entrevista que vimos al diseñador de producción que vas a encontrar en este canal.
Where you've got people
Por cierto, darle like y suscribirse por favor para que no te pierdas nada.
with like crazy superpowers and things like that. It's it doesn't take itself all that seriously compared to a show like Black Sails. So it's having fun, and you can have fun with that style and that tone.
I'm very excited to talk about this show. I binged it all in one sitting and was just blown away by it. And I was not familiar with the anime or manga prior. So I'm curious, were you familiar with this?
Sí, casi siempre la primera pregunta siempre es la misma en todas estas entrevistas de Screen Rant y está interesante lo que cada quien responde. La mayoría.
Iconic franchise prior to being approached for the show.
And did you get all 8 episodes?
I did, and I was so immersed in the world. I had to just get through it all, and it even got me to go watch the anime now. I'm about 30 episodes in, and I'm having just as much fun. So you weren't familiar with it before. What was
No,
your?
I wasn't at all. Basically, heard that there was this huge project coming into Cape Town, which is always like, oh, that's exciting, something's happening. There were a couple of people that were on Black Sails that were associated with the project as well, and I'd been on Black Sails. So then it was like, oh, they're coming, they're doing another pirate show. So you're like, oh, well, this is cool. I've done pirate shows, sword fights, ship battles. This is going to be like that kind of thing again. And when I learned a little bit more about the IP, and they were like, well, it's a pirate show, but you've got a pirate ship that's colored hot pink, for example. It's not
ver,
at all like that.
Nada que ver lo que es One Piece con una historia común de piratas.
Sales. So here's this is the anime, this is the manga. Check it out and see, and yeah, totally different tone. So I watched around 20 or 30 episodes of the anime, and I was able to flip through like casually at, if I wanted to. There were like little piles of the manga like stacked in the corners of the production office. But yeah, it was my first time hearing about the IP, and what's kind of, it's one of those things where you hear about something for the first time and then suddenly it's everywhere, because now every other person I talk to is like, oh, One Piece, that's amazing. Like, I've been a big fan for years and years. So it's like, oh, how did I not know about this before?
If you're not tuned into the anime sphere, it can be hidden, but I mean, now that I'm into it, it's great to see.
Yeah.
So you talk about the tonal differences between Black Sails and One Piece, and so I'm curious, in doing your research with the anime and the manga, what were some of the biggest takeaways that you found that you needed to bring into your work as editor?
First of all, it's a lighter tone. Black Sails is very dark, very heavy, very serious. And
Black Sails es otra serie, ¿no? De piratas, más o menos, y están haciendo ahí una comparativa, ¿no? De lo que es One Piece con
especially the manga is a little bit more grounded than the anime, but it's a lighter show. It's bright, it's optimistic, it's colorful. There's this great joy and warmth and sincerity to it, but yeah, it's not like everyone's this like twisted anti-hero. It's very very different tonally in that sense, and then also sort of like in a stylistic sense, a show like Black Sails is trying to be quite gritty and realistic, whereas because you're in like, not only is it the content where you've got people with like crazy superpowers and things like that, it doesn't take itself all that seriously compared to a show like Black Sails. So it's having fun, and you can have fun with that style and that tone. How you pace things, you can allow for these moments of sort of wry humor to come through and sort of play with the footage a bit more as well. Kind of let it be fun. Don't be, too bogged down with it. So
yo podría agregar que en One Piece, aparte, digo, en Black Sails dice que, por ejemplo, es un tono más serio, un poco más realista, pero yo digo que en One Piece, aparte de que sí te puedes divertir, de que la sientes muy amena, y todo eso que que comenta, yo creo que aparte también puedes encontrar ese sentimiento de identidad con los personajes, a pesar de no ser tan realista o de no ser realista como otras series de live action o de actores reales que intentan darle de que sea como más creíble para que tú puedas sentir ese sentimiento de poderte identificar con alguien porque son cosas que pasarían en la vida real, a pesar de que aquí son cosas que no pasarían en la vida real, también te identificas con los personajes y yo creo que eso es importante.
It definitely means you approach the material a little bit differently.
You handled it very well. I mean, it does feel fun throughout the show. Now, I believe in doing my research, you were editor for 4 of the episodes, 4 of the 8. Is that correct?
Yes and no. So I was initially editing for episode 5 and 6, which are the Baratier episodes, and that was block 2. And
mira, aquí está la culpable de que a Andreita le haya gustado tanto los episodios.
And then what happened is the production schedule kind of like expanded towards the end, and the block 1 editor, Kevin Ross, he and his assistant Daniel Williams had to be they had another commitment that they had to move on to. So those 2 episodes were handed over to me to continue, and then there was still quite a lot to do as it turned out. So then I ended up getting.
O sea que no le sabían a la de chambear los otros y se la pasaron usted, señorita. No es cierto.
Credited on those episodes as well. So
sí, Andreita, ya vete a dormir, que desde que llegaste al stream dijiste que te ibas a dormir y no te has ido a dormir, Andreita. Cuídate.
Yeah, basically, 4 episodes I got some kind of credit on. And then my first 2 episodes, kind of the same thing happened. There was some other stuff that happened later on after I'd left. So Tim Kinsey ended up doing work and got, I think, an additional editing credit on F5 and an editing credit on F6. So yeah, the episodes got passed around, and we've had a lot of people have had input and had their chance to, give it all a bit of love. And it's great to be able to collaborate like that.
I was just actually going to ask, going off of that, I mean, what is that what is that collaboration process like, where you have a director's vision, you have your vision? Eiichiro Oda has been very involved from what I've heard. So what is it like, having to sort of come together for one unified vision while still passing off episodes like that?
Well, usually, in TV, things typically work in a very structured way through the editing process. We get the footage in, the editor starts cutting pretty much independently. We'll have a brief from the director and the showrunners, but it's very much like, this is the editor's cut. This is our first impression of what the footage is offering and what we feel we can get out of it and do something with. And kind of like, no matter how good you think your editor's cut was, then the other voices start coming in, and it always elevates things. So then it goes to the director's cut. He gets his chance. That's then the official, cool, that's the director's cut. Then it's the showrunners, and they get their sort of.
Digo, aquí básicamente nos está platicando cómo es el trabajo, ¿no?, del editor después de obtener lo que es la primera parte de la visión del director. Bueno, okay.
The official producer's cut. Then it goes to the network, and then it went on to Oda. And you sort of, with all these stages, they would, because there were things like reshoots happening. It would sort of come around in circles every now and then, and kind of go back to like editor, director. And what ended up being incredibly helpful is that there were points in time where everyone literally sat around a boardroom table together, watching the episode. And so you'd have the showrunners, you'd have Tomorrow Studios, you'd have Netflix, you'd have the editorial team, and we were all able to get on the same page and discuss together. And then Sensei Oda.
O sea, sí hicieron como una mesa redonda, o sea, con todo el mundo para ver los episodios y ver, a ver, esto sí, esto no, esto sí, esto.
Kind of had this sort of like overarching, presence over the whole thing. So sort of once once our team we're all kind of like, cool, we're feeling like we're in a good space. Let's get his feedback and, do what we need to do to make him happy, because obviously having his blessing is absolutely critical to delivering the show the way the fans want it done.
Now, I've read quotes from Stephen and Matt about how intimidating almost it was to have Oda's involvement on the show.
Ojo, ya vamos a hablar de Oda otra vez.
And how nervous they were while doing it. And I'm curious if you yourself ever felt that when delivering your editor's cuts to the, like you say, to the various levels.
Yeah, you're certainly holding your breath a little bit specifically for that step. It's, I've worked with Netflix before, so, getting up to their level was, like par for the course. It's just part of the process. You're kind of used to the rhythm of that and having the studio give their notes. But yeah, having kind of like this much kind of bigger presence and bigger personality, and knowing that, he's not a TV guy. We are TV people who make TV. He's not. He's obviously been involved with anime, but like this is his baby in a very different way. So he some of the things that might occur to us as a way of doing things because oh, but this is how TV works. He can kind of have a comment that sort of throws that out the window, and it's like, okay, cool. Well, let's put a different hat on here and give this another go if we need to. Find something else in the footage. Look at doing some things a slightly different way. Yeah, if we needed to make him do another pass for him, then we would.
Well, it sounds like a.
Ok, entonces al final, pues sí, o sea, era tratar de buscar ese equilibrio, ¿no? De que pues es que ellos ya saben cómo se maneja la televisión. Estás tratando con una persona que ama a su bebé, como dice, ¿no? Ama a su obra. Entonces, tratar de buscar ese equilibrio fue lo realmente importante, ¿no?
A nice inclusive process, as much as maybe, like you say, a little holding of the breath.
It really, really was. And I think, when you're involved with something for such a long time, I mean, I personally was on the show for pretty much a calendar year on the dot. And, it still extended like a couple of months past that point in editorial. So yeah, it becomes this really big thing, and you kind of fall in love with the show and with everyone working on it. And you kind of get used to your team and, working with them and what everyone is bringing to the table. And then, that helps it feel like this really collaborative process.
Well, I'm glad you got to have that. So diving into your episodes in particular, what would you say was one of the more challenging scenes or sequences to really help put together in the edit?
Uy, la escena más desafiante, okay.
Probably the Zoro Mihawk fight came with some challenges.
Zoro contra Mihawk, okay.
It's a big sequence. It took multiple days to shoot it. And then, certain things were picked up again later. So, we went back to find slightly different things. So I've done a lot of work with fight scenes. Quite a lot of my previous work has involved action. Warrior in particular is pretty much like all fight scenes all the time. So that in and of itself didn't intimidate me. But first of all, it was bringing that sort of more anime style to the fight. So you kind of have these dramatic close-ups and these cool angles and giving it these. I think it's bringing a level of cool and self-awareness to it that you wouldn't again have in something that was trying to be more realistic and self-serious. So it's a bit more heightened. And so first of all, making sure that element's there, but then also understanding the stakes for Zoro and his character arc. It's not just about making this fight look great and fun and cool and, does it look like he's really...
O sea, todo el trasfondo de la pelea es más allá de que sea una pelea de acción entretenida, que sí lo es, o sea, imagínate ese desafío, o sea, ellos que ya han hecho ese tipo de escenas, como bien lo menciona aquí la señorita, todavía se complica más porque le tienes que dar ese tono del anime. en cierta modo y que al mismo tiempo no sea raro para el espectador.
Swinging a sword around or doesn't it? Yeah, it's the mechanics of a fight scene are kind of the one side of it, but it's really about the emotions of a fight scene. And yeah, we digging and finding like what is Zoro's story arc right now. It's kind of understanding his motivation. Why is he here? Why does he feel the need to fight Mihawk? Because it kind of comes out of nowhere. This guy shows up and Zoro's immediately like, cool, I'm going to fight you to the death. And it's like, what? Where did that come from? So you really kind of setting that up and establishing that and feeling that emotion with the character. And that had to go through, kind of a few different iterations and reworkings until we felt like we got that right. So that was kind of one of the trickier ones. And then same with kind of Luffy towards the end of that scene, where it's his optimism has kind of failed him for the first time. Something serious has actually happened. There's big stakes going on here. So how he reacts to this moment and the emotions involved, and then that obviously carries through into episode 6. So yeah, you kind of think of it when you approach a scene like this, like, oh, a fight scene, but it's like, wait, no, this is actually a really pivotal drama character moment for two of your leads. And that's what you need to be paying the most attention to.
I love that all of that thought went into it, because as I watched the anime after seeing the show.
Sí, realmente la pelea de Zoro contra Mihawk es bastante entretenida y buena. Y realmente sí te da esa sensación de estar viendo la pelea real de Zoro contra Mihawk.
I definitely felt more of the emotion from Luffy and Zoro in that fight in live action than I did in the anime. So that's awesome. So would you say that was also your favorite scene to work on, or was there a different scene or sequence that you found more fun or more, engaging to be a part of?
Probably, yeah. Some of the more emotional scenes, I really enjoy when there's kind of emotion and drama. I mean, like the ship battle's a lot of fun. That was great. But the one scene that really stands out to me is when in episode 6, Zoro is now wounded, and it opens with Nami is reading from the storybook to him.
Oh,
and then
lo de Mont Black Nolan, güey, qué padre.
And she confronts him and calls Luffy out for, like, how did you allow this to happen? And for me, like, again, it's it's kind of a turning point in the series for their relationship.
Claro.
And they both performed so amazingly well in that scene. You could really feel the depth of these characters, and that they felt real and they felt human, and that's what you want from a live action compared to something that isn't live action. It needs to be grounded. You want your audience to feel like these are believable characters that you can root for and get behind, and not maybe think like, oh, well, this is a cartoon. Like, no, anime is never the same as any kind of cartoon in the first place. But the performances that Emily and Inaki gave just really elevated that scene, and it was such a joy to edit it for that reason. Finding those performances, finding those character moments, and just.
Sí, esa escena es un momento bien tenso, ¿no? Y que hasta en cierto momento yo sentía a Iñaki dudando, o sea, de que, ay, ¿tiene razón o no tiene razón? Pero se sostuvo, ¿no? De no voy a interferir en el sueño de Zoro, o sea, no quiero que muera, pero ese es su sueño, pelear contra él, pues lo tengo que dejar.
Just, loving what they were doing on camera.
It is a really wonderful scene, and I think Emily practically steals the whole show for me. She was incredible as Nami, and Iñaki does great as Monkey. So I can't wait for people to finally see it in a few days. Which, speaking of, I don't know if you've had the time, but reactions are starting to come out now online from journalists like myself. Have you had the chance to read or hear about any of them so far?
Well, I saw one with a very promising headline saying that it's, I think, the first live action adaptation to get it right.
La primera adaptación de live action que lo hace bien, ok.
Or at least the best live action adaptation there's been to date. So if, we hope that that's what everyone will feel, is that, yeah, we hopefully, in everyone's opinion, got this one right, and that they're going to love it and think this is the best version, well, not the best version of One Piece, but the best version of a live action anime that you could possibly want.
Now, it's been a very tricky genre throughout the years, and not that I'm trying to talk bad about any other show.
Y al final no se equivocaron, ¿eh? Yo creo que sí, o sea, esto marca un punto de inflexión para todos los live actions, ¿no? Por ahí me enteré, no sé si sea broma o si sea real, de uno de Naruto, y que hasta ahorita se les ocurrió llamar a Masashi Kishimoto. Digo, ¿entonces estaban haciendo esta madre sin llamar a Masashi o qué pedo? O apenas lo están planeando. Porque si de ser así, pues ya le iban cagando, ¿no? Si no le hablaron a Masashi desde el principio.
But Netflix was also behind Cowboy Bebop as well as Tomorrow, and so I know on a lot of audiences' minds there may have been there may be some reservations about live action One Piece coming from the same people or same studios.
Claro, había sus
And
dudas.
I'm curious if they're in your time working on the show, if you ever heard either team, reflecting on that experience and how they could use that to make One Piece even better.
There wasn't sort of ever really what to me seemed like an out loud acknowledgement of that. Certainly not with me in the room. It was probably happening elsewhere. So yeah, no one was saying like, oh, we can't do this because of how we did that in another show. But that we were all very aware that that the fans are going to make or break this show, and we need to do things in a way that's going to make them happy. And I think that's also where deferring to Oda was such an important
sí,
aspect.
Fíjate, Oda es parte fundamental de ese éxito. O sea, realmente todo lo que toca este señor es oro.
Of it is his blessing counts for everything. And yeah, even like when the teaser came out the first time, you sort of like, what are the fans saying? What are the fans saying? And I'm sure there were kind of, moments in response to that to go like, okay, cool. And there was like a very early teaser that came out where people were responding to like some of the sets and things. So there's definitely been a lot of awareness that fan response is a big deal, and we need to make sure our fans are happy. So it's everything from planting little Easter eggs throughout the show. So, you and I won't necessarily see them because we're not that familiar with the IP, but hopefully the eagle-eyed fans will be like, oh my God, look, there's that's going on. Yeah, we are conscious of the fans and want to make sure that they are as happy as possible.
I think, fans who go into it with as open of.
Sí, yo creo que sí lo lograron. Lograron que el fan se sintiera identificado con el live action. La mayor parte, no voy a decir que todos. Creo que sí, la mayoría se sintió identificada, le gustó el live action, y creo que eso es bien importante.
Mind as possible are going to really get a kick out of it because it is very faithful to the energy and the story of the original. So, and I hope you guys get more episodes after this too. I would love to see this story continue after season 1. For my final question, before I let you go, you mentioned you were on Warrior, and thankfully that show's coming back for season 3 after an uncertain status. How does it feel for you, having been a part of that show, to see it coming back after all this time?
Bueno, eso ya no nos interesa, ya habla de otra serie que no es One Piece. Bueno, hasta aquí esta entrevista. Dime lo que más te impresionó, lo que más te gustó, y sígueme diciendo qué te pareció el live action, y recuerda que nos veremos en el siguiente videito. Chao, chao.